So the carpal tunnel syndrome involves the median nerve, which is going to be coursing all the way from your neck, and we're going to be talking about this in just a moment, through the medial side of the arm, down through the pronator teres muscle, and then in through that infamous carpal tunnel. The tunnel is created on the floor, as we mentioned in that lunate video, as the floor, and then we've got some little walls on the side, which are the distal radial bone, the distal ulna bone, and from there, you've got a retinaculum that sits across the top. If you are dealing with, as you saw in those assessment videos, a numbness and tingling that might be found in the thumb and the forefinger, maybe even a weakness, you're probably dealing with a compression. So we want to decompress the tunnel. How do we do that? Well, we're going to do a nerve glide to start. So what I'm going to take is I'm going to take the wrist and I'm going to move it backward, and I'm going to draw that median nerve through that tunnel, back and forth. I might also take my hands and do a little spread of the retinaculum. The retinaculum is a sheath that sits over the top of the carpal tunnel, and sometimes in overuse conditions it might shorten up slowly adaptively over time. This would be from people that are doing gymnastics maybe and jarring their wrists, or doing a lot of yoga classes where their wrist is jammed on the ground. It could occur in certain exercises in the gym as well. But I'm going to try to do a spread, so I take my thumbs and go to the center of that wrist, straight up over that carpal tunnel, and spread. I can also spread and stretch. So I'm going to take those tissues again and elongate them laterally. And this one here is also compressing in and doing a direct compression of the carpal tunnel here while stripping the nerve through the hole. So these are called nerve flossing or nerve glides. The other thing always to assess with any carpal tunnel syndrome is the probability that the entrapment of the median nerve may not be in the carpal tunnel. So if you're having a wrist problem or a hand problem, it doesn't mean it's always coming from here. So we'll talk a little bit now about the pronator teres muscle. The median nerve will pop through there as I work my way upstream here on Quinn. I've got the pronator teres muscle. That's the muscle, as you learned in those elbow videos, that actually takes that hand and rolls it downward. You got the supinator muscle that rolls it upward. And there's a sheath that median nerve passes through here, and I'm going to hold it, and again, nerve glide it. Maybe do some opening stretches for the pronator teres muscle itself. So bend, hold, extend, and rotate. Bend, hold, extend, rotate. There's no reason to be touching inside here. There's no entrapment points here. We have to go upstream where that median nerve is now coursing through the pec area here under a muscle called pec minor, the one that you don't see, pec major being here where you see it and forms the shape of your chest, but there's a smaller muscle below called pec minor. It's got its insertion points here in your rib cage, and it's got its origin here in the coracoid process. And that brachial plexus, those nerves, they course right underneath that. There's a possibility, I've seen this a few times, where the median nerve entrapment is actually some of the cords that are going to make up that median nerve, but here in the chest region. And again, a hold, move, and floss. So you want to take the arm overhead. That's going to pull the nervous system through its channels underneath that pec minor. Coracoid process is used as a little lever point, so the nerves, the cords are going to be pulled around that coracoid process. And you just refer back to those anatomy videos and you take a look and see that coracoid process is a small bony projection, kind of comes forward off the shoulder blade, very funky shaped bone. But the coracoid comes forward and that pec minor is attached to it. Those brachial plexus is passing underneath it. Then if we go up a little bit further north here, we've got the clavicle, and the clavicle also gets raised upward when I bring the arm up over the head. And so if I want to also take some pressure off of the brachial plexus there, I could take the brachial plexus and I can glide it underneath that clavicle. So another way of addressing this problem that might be a wrist problem is up here by the clavicle. And then the last entrapment point, and the major one, of course, is going to be in the neck and the lateral canal. So when the nerve roots are exiting, very oftentimes the bony hole, which is called the lateral canal of your neck, is the most common entrapment point for the C5, C6 nerves, which make up that median nerve and eventually lead down to the carpal tunnel syndrome. So those are the basic ideas about carpal tunnel and the therapies involved to cure the carpal tunnel syndrome at home.